to our homestead. Today I'm going to be making some very special dish. See, a few days ago we have harvested our broiler chickens, our meat breed chickens, and I made a wonderful bone broth using chicken feet. And I'm gonna put up the link to that video, and it came out so good. You should see it, it's unbelievable. So also I made some bone broth using the carcasses, the necks, the things that didn't go anywhere. And also I cooked chicken hearts, and we love chicken hearts, and I make it with a little bit of butter, a little bit of spices, so good. But today, my friends, to honor the creator and the creation, I'm gonna be cooking chicken livers. And chicken liver, beef liver, you know, it's so good for us nutritionally. But they got such a bad rap, and everyone hates on liver. It's disgusting. And you know what? I don't know why it got such a bad rap. I think that someone has something against livers, because in fact they are super nutritional to us. I was reading somewhere that in an ancient world, and actually in a current time, in some tribes where hunters and gatherers, the first thing they eat on the animal when it's captured, when it's killed, is the liver, because it has the most nutrition. And it's the warriors or the hunters who get the chance to eat that liver on the spot. So I think it's pretty amazing. Vicious animals, the animals, the hunting animals, when they kill an animal, the first thing they eat, they rip the belly apart. I know it's disgusting, graphic, sorry. But they eat that liver first because it's full of nutrients. But unfortunately in today's, modern world, we shy away from liver. But I'm not gonna shy away from it. Today I'm gonna make liver pate, chicken liver pate. In my language, it's called kuryny pashtet. Kuryny means chicken, pashtet means pate. All right, so it's quite simple recipe, and this is my version of recipe. I have kind of put it together to my own liking. So let me see my recipe from my old trusty recipe book. All right, so we're gonna need chicken livers, about a pound. Then we're gonna need 1 medium-sized carrot, 1 medium-sized onion, some salt, some pepper to taste, a pinch of sugar, and I know, but it's gonna become important, about 3 to 4 ounces of butter, about 3/4 cup of dairy. And a dairy can be just milk, just cream, or half and half. And in my case, I'm gonna use actual half and half, okay? And then what else? Oh, and I also like to use, but this is optional, I'm gonna use a little bit of fresh thyme. I really like how it works with chicken, not just with chicken meat, but with chicken organ meat. And what else? I'm gonna need a frying pan, because that's how we're gonna be cooking, and a blender of some sort. So either a blender will work or a food processor. In my case, I'm gonna use a food processor. So let's get cooking. Now listen, you guys know that liver pate, it can sometimes comes in those metal little cans that you can buy that are shelf stable. That means you can pressure can liver pate as well. Not much literature about that, but I was gonna do some of it, pressure canning, and some of it I'm just gonna keep in the fridge and use it up in a week or two, and it will be perfectly good in my fridge. So let's get cooking. All right, so I'm just peeling my vegetables, and I'm gonna chop them up. So as far as how to cut them, it really doesn't matter, because it can be as pretty as possible or as ugly as it can be, because it's not important. As long as they are similar size chunks, so when they are cooking, so they will be cooked evenly all at the same time, because eventually everything is gonna go into the food processor anyway. So it doesn't matter how pretty you chopped it. All right, so I'm just gonna peel my carrots. I'm gonna peel my onion. All right, let me just push everything aside. And I need to save my peels of my onions. I always save the peels of my onions. Sometimes I save other portions of my vegetables, especially if it's good quality greens, stems of greens, or of chunks of carrot. something like that. I also store them in my Ziploc bag, aromatics bag they call it, and I keep it in a freezer. And then when I'm making broth, that's what I put in my broth. All these pieces are gonna be used up. Nothing goes in the trash. Even this is gonna go to my chickens. So I'm just roughly chopping up my vegetables because I'm gonna put them in my skillet with a little bit of olive oil. Just a little bit of olive oil, it's not too much. And I'm gonna begin to saute them all together. All right, so I'm just gonna warm up the skillet and give a couple of tablespoons, really not that much. And I'm gonna start sauteing my onion. And I put it on medium heat because I don't want it to caramelize it, I just wanna make it softer. In the meantime, I'm gonna chop up all of my carrots. And again, you can chop them up in any way you want to. I'm just gonna cut them across, okay? And I'm gonna chop them up into little pieces, that's it. Like half moons. The onion is getting a little softer. Now I'm gonna add the carrot. And with carrots, they're funny. They really love to soak up oil. So in case it becomes a little dry, I don't mind putting another splash of oil in here. I like to cook with extra virgin olive oil or with avocado oil because I don't accept any other oils in my kitchen. So let this cook on the medium heat for a little while. In the meantime, I need to start working on the liver, and I'm examining the liver, making sure that it's nice and clean. And if there are any kind of blood vessels remaining, I'm gonna cut them out, any kind of film, and then I'm just gonna cut them into little chunks, okay? They don't have to be very small, but I'm just gonna cut those in chunks so they are cooking evenly as well. My chickens were nice and healthy, and they were fed good food. So I know this is going to be a really, really good pate. My mama used to make chicken pate. And I remember putting it on a slice of bread with a little bit of butter. And that was our lunch, or when we came home from school, we would have a cup of tea and a sandwich with liver pate. Some people don't like to touch meat or organ meats with their hands, and I understand, it's okay, but I don't mind, especially because I am also cooking for my family. I don't wear gloves when I cook for my family. All right, so, what is so good about this liver? What is so special about chicken livers? By the way, beef livers are even better nutritionally speaking than chicken livers. But chicken liver is very rich in iron, and you probably guys have heard about that. And besides being rich in iron, it absorbs very well when we consume it, because in order for iron to be absorbed in our human body, right, it also has to be accompanied by other things, such as vitamin B and vitamin C. Funny enough, guess what liver has? Vitamin C and vitamin B. Vitamin B12, vitamin B1, I think. Also, it's rich in folate. It's rich in biotin. So, you know how we always worry about, the nails and the skin and the hair? It's rich in biotin. Also, it has a vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 is an important component when it comes to keeping our arteries nice and healthy and removing unnecessary calcium, unnecessary calcification in the arteries, in the blood vessels. All right. So I think it's great. Also, it is rich in vitamin A. You know, we as kids were told, eat your carrots, eat your vegetables, because you're going to have good vision, good night vision, because it's high in vitamin A. Well, actually, the truth is, carrots are high in beta-carotene. And in order for beta-carotene to convert into vitamin A, it really has to go through a lot of processes, right? And not everything will be converted into vitamin A, where in fact, chicken liver, beef liver has a lot of vitamin A. All right, listen, I gotta go stir my vegetables. I don't want them to burn. Okay, it's getting much, much softer. I'm just gonna put a little bit of salt, not much, but you know, it's important that we salt every layer. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt. And now I'm just gonna put a little splash of water, a couple of tablespoons, just like this. I'm gonna put a cover on, turn the heat all the way down, and let this stew for a little bit until all the vegetables are nice and soft, probably 4 or 5 minutes. All right, friends, so what else is the liver rich in, and why is it so good for us? So it has good amount of zinc, and zinc is so important for healing the lining of our gut, to stop replication of unwanted viruses. So that means it's working on our immune system. Also, it has a good amount of thiamine, a good amount of magnesium, folate, selenium. I mean, come on. What other foods do you know that has that much of good nutrients? So, there is a whole generation of us who don't eat organ meats anymore. And some people say to me, well, you know, we hear that livers store a lot of toxins. And I have to make a little correction about that. Livers have a bad rap because, yes, livers process the body from toxins of exposures of different pesticides that we encounter, plastics, other toxins, right? However, those toxins are not stored in the liver. They're processed through that and they're not stored there. Okay, so your healthy animal, when you're consuming meats and organ meats from healthy animals, they're actually not storing those things there, those toxins. The best type of beef or chicken livers is to use it from pasture-raised organic organic meats, animals raised organically on pasture. So you probably have heard about that American diet is full of omega-6s. And omega-6 is more amino acid, more pro-inflammatory, where omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. And standard American diet is unfortunately very high in omega-6s and very low in omega-3s. Well, pasture-raised organic meats and organ meats are high in omega-3s. So, I mean, it's a full package of health right here. So you may also say, well, Mama Lil, I hear organ meats, especially liver, is high in cholesterol. Yes, you're correct. But it's not like you're going to eat a huge amount of it. And we do need cholesterol to be consumed because that's what protects our cells and restores our cells, the walls of our each cell. So don't be afraid of chicken liver. All right, let me go check on my vegetables. All right, so let's check on these vegetables. I think they're getting much, much softer, but they're not ready yet because I'm looking at the carrots, and carrots are still pretty firm, so they need more time for cooking. So it's all right, I'll give them more time, no rush, okay, because the carrots are kind of chunky. All right, let's check on these carrots and onion. We want to make sure that the carrots are nice and soft, so I'm just gonna press down with a spoon and make sure it comes apart very easily, and it seems to be pretty soft. So I think it's done. Let me put this down. The carrots are done, and this little mixture of vegetables is done. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually take it out and cook the livers separately. And I think that's one of the important tricks of making a really good liver pate. So I'm gonna take this out, okay? Because if you have ever had a really good liver pate, it's supposed to be very smooth. Very, very smooth, and there should be no little, I don't know how to describe that. They're like, sometimes bad quality liver pate will have like this little pebbles almost. All right, so I'm just gonna splash a little bit more olive oil, just a little bit more, warm up the skillet again, and now I'm gonna be cooking the livers. Here comes the livers. Okay, so let them cook. I'm gonna increase the heat a little bit. Now again, I don't want them to be browned, like caramelized. I still want them to be soft, because remember, we want this liver pate to be nice and fluffy and soft. So this is gonna take a little while to cook. I was just looking at the time frame, how long it took me to cook those vegetables. All in all, it took 10 minutes from the beginning to the end, 10 minutes. All right, let this liver cook. Okay, so it's been cooking for about 10 minutes. There's some liquid on the bottom, which is okay. And see how the color of the liver changed? It became like this brownish, opaque kind of color. So I'm just salting a little bit, you know, to taste, and then I will taste it again a little bit later, because it's a big amount of liver I have here. Because as you guys watch me before, you know that I always make bigger portion than just one recipe, just one batch. And I'm gonna put some fresh black crushed pepper in there again to taste. You can always add more if you feel like you need to add more. I am not putting garlic into my recipe here. I know other people do, but not in my case. And I'm going to be putting a little bit of sugar. And I'm going to be probably, I don't know, like a half a teaspoon maybe, something like that. A really generous kind of pinch. And again, I will taste it. Now, the reason why I add sugar, because I was reading literature written by some of old-fashioned chefs back from 1950s, 1960s, where they mention when you cook liver that adding a little bit of sugar and adding a little bit of dairy removes some of that unpleasant bitterness that liver may have. And that is why I'm putting a little bit of sugar. Trust me, it's not that much. It's really, you know, really not going to translate into anything, okay? Now I'm going to be putting my butter, and this is about 3 ounces of butter here, and I'm just going to throw them into like little chunks so they dissolve and melt quicker into my pate. Liver pate is not low-calorie dish by all means, but you know what though? It's really good for those who are on keto diet. All right, so let this just melt and cook everything together. I turned the heat on low because I don't want to burn anything anymore. As soon as this butter melts, I'm going to be adding my dairy, which in my case is half and half, but you may use just milk or just cream, whatever you want. One thing I do know is that it is important to add dairy when the liver is already cooked, because if added earlier, there's a chance that you will develop those little beads of kind of like almost like curdled, I don't know how to describe that, but you know what I'm talking about. You want this to be nice and smooth, smooth. Okay, all right, so the butter is all melted, okay? Now I'm gonna be adding, so see how there's a little bit of liquid in here? That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. So I'm putting my half and half, And again, it's all about 3/4 of a cup. And I'm going to watch this come to a boil again and continue to cook on medium low heat. Okay, it's coming to a boil now, and this is a good time now to add my herbs. And all I'm doing, I'm just taking a branch and I'm kind of like scooping all of those tiny little leaves right in there. Okay, and this is optional. If you don't have it, you don't have it. If you have it, that's great. If you have dry will work as well. But that's pretty much all I do as far as herbs when it comes to my liver pate. Okay, but I feel that it adds a really nice flavor to my liver pate. And I think that's done. Oh, a little bit more. A little bit more. And it's amazing how fresh herbs have this really lovely aroma. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna give it a stir. And now I'm just gonna taste it for salt, for pepper, and making sure that it's okay. Let me grab my spoon. Let me give it a little tiny taste. I think you could use a little bit more salt. A little bit more salt. Yeah. Because I think all that dairy really diluted the saltiness. All right, at this point, I'm going to be returning back. I'm going to be returning back my vegetables. All right, so here are my vegetables. They're coming back, and they're going to marry everything together. All right, so let's see. Looking beautiful. Now you can eat it just like this, but remember, this is not liver and vegetables. This is liver pate. So let's just marry everything together. All right. Let it come to a boil again before I put everything in a food processor. Okay, friends, so the liver is ready to go into the food processor. And I'm just gonna scoop some of it. Ooh, making a mess. Scoop some of it in here. And I'm going to pulverize it to make it nice and smooth. Either, guys, you can use a blender if you want to, or a food processor would work as well. All right, so I'm not gonna overwhelm and put too much. I'm just gonna fill probably about halfway or so. So I'll do this in portions, okay? I tasted it one more time to make sure it was okay for salt and pepper. All right, so now, let me see. I've gotta put this thing on and turn it on. All right, so let's turn this on. All right, let's take a look at this bad boy. Nice and smooth like butter. All right, so I have here a couple of jars, and they're nice and clean. These are my pint jars, but you may use any glass container you want. So let me just move this aside. Okay, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill them up right now with this pate, okay? Just like this. I grew up with Mama making pate and put it in the fridge. But before she put it in the fridge, she did something very, very unique. It's like a little trick she knew how to keep pate fresh longer in the fridge. Okay? And there's just something nostalgic about pate for me. I'm just gonna tap it so it's like down in my jar, because I don't want any air in there, because air, unfortunately, is the enemy, because air contains bacteria and we don't want that. So I'm just gonna clean my edges. Again, tap it a little bit so it falls down, because I see those air bubbles coming up. Do you see them bubbling at the top? burp, almost like a burping. All right, now I have some melted butter, and that's what Mama used to do. She would pour a little bit of melted butter right on top, just like this, probably about a couple of tablespoons. Let me wipe the edges. Just gonna take some paper towels just to make the edge nice and clean, because you don't want any air in this jar when you're gonna store it in the fridge. Okay, because we want this to be nice and sweet and delicious. So I'm just gonna put my cover on, just like this. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna cover right now. I'm not gonna cover that right now because you don't wanna cover when it's still hot. So it needs to cool off like this on my counter before I actually put a cover on and put it in the fridge. Okay, friends, so this is gonna go in the fridge, but I have a little taste here for myself. So I've got myself a little cracker here, and I'm gonna put a little tiny bit on the bottom of my cracker. This is pear jam, okay? And right on top of that, I'm gonna put a little bit of liver pate. Look at that. Let's give it a taste. So good. So good. Really good. It also goes very well with orange marmalade or other spicy jams. So friends, I hope you're not shying away from nutrient-dense foods, okay? Something that's actually gonna be good for our bodies. Yes, we're not consuming a lot of it, but still it's good to have something every day, every other day. If you have access to pasture-raised organic chicken livers, make some chicken pate. It's so good for you. So friends, on this note, be encouraged and try something new.